Hi there and welcome to the video. If you've been anywhere on social media recently, well in the last days, weeks, months, then you've seen this guy around. Emory Tate, a controversial figure, which we're not going to get too much into, referred to as Top G. And in one of the videos, he kept talking as he generally does. And he mentioned his father, and on the video there was a picture of his father. And I immediately recognized him. I was like, hey, that's Emory Tate. And I put the two and two together. So Emory Tate is the son of the great chess player Emory Tate, the late great Emory Tate. Passed away in 2015, way too young. And he was a fantastic attacking player, very original player. And if you want to coin a term like Top G chess, then you have to have Emory Tate as the sort of, the prototypical Top G chess player, if you will. And to explain that, let's have a look at one of his absolute best games. Emory was a fantastic tactician and attacking player. And he played very much by feel. It was said that he rarely picked up a chess book, didn't touch chess computers, but he was very dangerous and had many grandmaster sculpts, including this one against Leonid Yudasin. Yudasin was a very strong player at the time of this game in 1997. He was rated 2600. And let's see what happened. Emory had the white pieces, he opened up with e4, and we had the Sicilian defense. The Najdorf, standard moves here, knight f6, knight c3 and a6. This is the Najdorf variation. Now Emory had a big liking to the line with bishop c4 here, as did Fischer for a while. The Sosin attack, a very dangerous line. Not so popular these days, but I think if you want to surprise your opponent from time to time, this can be a dangerous surprise weapon. Yudasin continued knight b to d7, queen e2 by Tate, just intending to shore up this pawn, which is now attacked with knight c5. So now white is ready to keep on attacking with g4. b5, starting a counterattack, g5 hitting the knight retreats. And now a little bit of a surprising move, but from the games I've looked at, it seemed like Emory Tate had a certain love relationship with a sacrifice on d5 in the Sicilian, and here he plays bishop d5. In the game, the sacrifice was not accepted, and Yudasin played bishop b7. I guess after e takes d5, white is going to flick in the move knight c6, hitting the queen, which means that the queen can't interpose no longer on e7 after e takes d5, and we can win the piece back with f4, and a murky situation will appear on the board, something that Tate would quite like, so Yudasin avoids that and plays bishop b7. Now this means that this knight is temporarily displaced here on b7, but it will get quickly back into the game on c5. But Tate uses the opportunity to play here a4, and Yudasin takes on a4. He has to resolve the situation because we're simply threatening to take on b5 and win a pawn. We have too many pieces hitting b5. The alternative b4 is again met with a sacrifice on d5. And very similar to what we looked at previously, it's going to be knight c6, e takes d5, and then f4. And again, and probably wisely, Yudasin avoids that and he takes on a4. Rook takes a4, and now the knight gets into the game with tempo. The rook has to move again, but the rook is not unhappy on a3 because it's now a term that comes from John Watson's book, Secrets of Modern Chess Strategy, a radical rook. The rook can sort of swing around the board, a very useful thing to have. Sort of, flexible rook. Also white is hinting at playing b4, so Yudasin avoids that by playing queen b6. Doesn't want to get hit with b4, also doesn't want to get hit with some knight c6 when he plays bishop b7. So queen b6, stopping those ideas. So now, after being aggressive, it looks like white is taking some time off. He castles and plays king h1. So maybe Utahson thought, okay, well, okay, we're going to get a middle game here. Things are going to calm down. However, after castles, this is what Tate was waiting for, because now he can play b4. The bishop being unprotected, you can't take this on account of knight c6, takes e7. So black has to lose time with a knight. He puts it on b7, it's a little bit passive, and white will gain some time for an attack. So black comes up with a counterattack, knight to a4. Hit by 2 white pieces, but the queen is counterattacking the knight on d4. Well, you will find many sacrifices on d5 and f5 in these Sosin attacks, and this is no exception. Knight f5 by Emory Tate. Now any move with a knight takes e3, any move that doesn't protect the bishop will result in knight takes e7 check, followed by probably picking up the knight, whether it be on c3 or a4, and we are winning material. If the bishop retreats, we take on a4, so the only move that makes sense is e takes f5. But now we come in with the knight to d5, we hit the queen, protect the pawn, hit the bishop. So queen d8 looks forced, and that's what the Utahson played. So now we take the rook, right? Wrong, that's not top G chess. Top G's keep attacking, and e takes f5, of course, opening up for the queen, putting more pawns in the attack, and black has to deal with the threat on the bishop. I guess only a madman would take on g5 here. Utahson played rook e8, but even though this might be the best move, what kind of madman is going to allow Emory Tate to attack with all his might here on the g-file? Not many people, and well, Utahson was not one of them, so he played rook e8. So now we can take the knight, right? Again, wrong. Queen h5, going for the attack. This knight is out of the game. It's not doing much. We could win it back and play positionally, but that's not how Emory Tate played. He went for the king. So Utahson thought, okay, you don't want to take my knight, so I will retreat it. I'll be up a piece. I think I can withstand the attack. Rook h3, probably as expected. Threatening mate on h7. I'll take on h7 and queen h8 mate. But knight f8 seems to defend. And now black is up a piece. The knight on t5 is hanging. What does white have up his sleeve? He has to keep on attacking, and the only way to do that is to open up lines. f6. And now Utahson took on a d5. Knight takes d5. He probably can't take on f6 on account of the g-file simply being too open. After rook g1 check, bishop g7, queen h6. There's simply no way to protect here. For instance, knight g6 trying to close things. We're going to take on h7 and rook takes g6, and after we take the rook, rook f3 will follow, and there's no way to avoid mate there. Bishop f6, bishop h6. So Utahson took on d5. And now if you take on e7, things should be under control. Knight takes, and then we're up a piece, and things seem to be under control, but nope. We want to open up the king. F takes g7. So white is down 2 pieces. But now he's able to introduce this previously dormant bishop into the game. Bishop to b2 check. Now the king has to go g8. If f6, I take it, and the g-file that was so cunningly cleared up by king h1 many moons ago comes in handy. So king g8. But now comes the star move of the game. Queen h6 works as well, but the move played in the game is absolutely fantastic. g6. Have a look at this line opening move. In the game, bishop f6 was played. There's no way to take the pawn. If you take with the h-pawn, you're mated immediately. If you take with the knight, you lost control of h7, and I simply made you, well, I can mate you on g7 in one move, or I can do this, which is a lot nicer. And finally, if f takes g6, the knight on t5 is hanging, and now there's no defense. You have to give up this knight, and now you have no way to stop the mate on f7 next move. So g6, fantastic move. Bishop f6, trying to keep things under control, but you have to give up material. G takes f7 check, and once again white doesn't take material. He could take on e8, but probably black is okay there. He will take back on e8, b2 will hang, and he's sort of hanging around. But again, Emory had other ideas. Rook g1. This is one of the rare moments in the game where white had a better move. Queen g4 is actually devastating. We're threatening queen g8 mate. So knight e6. If you go to knight g6, we just take it because of the pin. And now rook g1. And black is toast. And the reason black is toast is, well, it's hard to make a move. And if you play a move like bishop takes b2, if you're not familiar with the most standard mating patterns, so I can point you to my playlist of checkmate patterns, and one of those, which I will link to, is the lawnmower mate. Simple mate, you know, when you have few pieces, but also useful when you have a lot of pieces on the board, because this is basically lawnmower mate. We can play queen is fun mate, but I like, you know, having the maximum distance. Okay, the queen can interpose and we take it, but the same idea. We were simply lawnmowering the g and the h file. So this would have been a nice finish to the game, but rook g1 was played, completely winning as well, as evidenced by the fact that the best that Yutesin could come up with was to postpone here with rook to e1, then take on b2, but now rook e8. And the problem here is that the knight is now pinned, so we're threatening queen takes h7, so the queen is lost. Yutesin tried to give it back with knight f6, but rook takes d8. Yutesin took back, rook takes d8. Black can win the queen back here, knight takes h5, but that's just completely lost. If you take on h5, I'll take on a8, and this hangs, I will win one of the knights, for instance here. And you can't even take on f7 because of rook f5 check. I'm going to win this pawn, and this pawn will promote. So whenever strong players have to choose between a position like this, they go for the one which has at least some practical chances. If you go for the ending knight takes h5, you have absolutely no chance whatsoever. The win is very simple. You take the a pawn, the b pawn runs up, nothing to do. But here, even though it's still lost, you have 3 pieces for the queen. There might be some, slight chance that your opponent doesn't find the best one, and you're back in the game with equal material, or around that. So a practical choice by Yutesin, but in this case it did not matter. Queen h6, and here I guess he was setting up for rook g3, followed by queen takes f6 and rook g8 mate. Knight e4 was played, and now white sort of won a tempo because queen h4, the knight has to go back because of the double attack here, and now rook g3, which he wanted to play. And again this threat, queen takes f6 and rook g8 mate, so knight a to d7, but now queen g5, and finally black cannot defend against all the threats. If the knight moves to cover here, we're going to give mate on g8, and the mate on g7 simply can't be stopped. So an absolutely fantastic game by Emory Tate. Emory Tate once played at the Reykjavik Open many years ago, in 2007, and in fact, this picture in the corner, this is the original picture. It's taken, I'm actually in the same building where this was taken in 2007, and in the same building we have the Reykjavik Chess Club, we have the Icelandic Chess Federation where I'm currently at, and then we have like a billiard and snooker place where you can sit down and have a few drinks after the games. And it was there that after one of the rounds, Emory and a lot of people gathered, and Emory was showing one of his games, very lively character, showing his games, then I had this, and flashy tactics, always had some tactics up his sleeve. And during one of those postmortems, he showed us an absolutely crazy line in the Sicilian. So this was in April 2007, not 2017, in 2007. And a few months later, I played in the Icelandic Championship, and my opponent, we almost always made a draw, and we kind of knew that we wanted to play this draw instead of just playing, you know, our regular exchange French and then shake it on move 7. I guess okay. I'm not proud of, you know, having kind of pre-arranged the game, but I think at the end of the day, it's more important that this creation wasn't lost, because this is one of the most fantastic ways to draw games I've ever seen. And I'll show you the game. So I had the white pieces, and my friend Snorri Bergson had black. I opened with E4, sorry, which is already suspicious because at the time I had more or less stopped playing E4. My opponent played the Sicilian, usually played the French, and we played the Najdorf. Okay, he started with E6, but after this we have the Najdorf. And now F4, the poison pawn variation. And here Emory had shown us this crazy move E5. Queen takes B2, and the even more crazy move Bishop B5. Now objectively this is not good. White can take with the pawn, Knight takes B5, Knight C takes B5. But he has to be careful. I mean, this is not without venom. Like if the knight were to retreat, it's mate in 1. Emory actually lost one game with black against Ermolinski with his mate, so Knight D5 or something. But okay, white has some compensation. He's threatening C4, Knight C7 is on the cards. It's not, you know, completely stupid. But Knight FD7 is also sensible. The knight was attacked, so it retreats. This is still hanging, this is hanging. What does white do? Well, Queen F3, Queen takes Rook, King F2. Now, objectively, white can play Queen B2, and he's winning. But Queen takes H1 is tempting, and that's what my opponent did. And this is what Tate had shown us, this crazy line. Now Knight takes E6. And now we're threatening this mate, this crazy mate here. So black takes, and now Queen H3. And now it's incredibly hard to defend this mate. If you take here, mate, you cannot move the king, and here I mate you. So the only way to defend E6 pawn is King F7. But now white has only one move to save the game. And this motif is absolutely crazy. Queen takes F7, this is forced, and then we check. Czechoslovakia, and this happened in the game. D5, we take it, but we still have the circuit of Bishop F3, King F5, Bishop E4. Note that white cannot try to win with a move like H3, because he has given up so much material that black can take on H3, and white is not in time here to give the mate. You can trust me, or you can check yourself with the computer. This should be winning for black. There's no way to mate here, but the perpetual drawing mechanism here is absolutely crazy. I also showed this game in one of my videos where I go over, you know, some grandmaster draws, some stock draws, and well, this hasn't made the circuit, if you will. I guess because you know, at times one of the players could go off the path, black here, and just have a winning position basically. But I thought this, you know, this is absolutely amazing to come up with this, and this is an analysis of Emory Tate. This is his creation, and I'm happy that at least it got to see the light of day, although maybe not under the best of circumstances. But okay, you know, things happen. So anyway, hope you enjoyed this little introduction into Emory Tate, and I'll see you soon. Thank you. Bye bye.